So the first type of card that I'd like to talk about is video cards. All right, I'd say these are pretty important. Right, video cards are what make it that you can connect a monitor and actually see what's happening on the computer. If you can't see what's happening, does it really happen? It's got to be a joke there somewhere. But anyway, let's take a look at video cards. This is an example of one. First thing I suppose I should point out is you'll notice that it almost looks like a little mini motherboard in the sense that there's this thing called the GPU, or the Graphics Processing Unit. It looks like I'm pointing to a fan, which of course, just like when we looked at the CPU on the motherboard, the Central Processing Unit, again, we had to have some kind of cooling mechanism. Well, that is a form of a processor. Because video is so resource intensive, it needs so much data to produce video, it typically has its own processor. Now, sometimes this processor, sometimes this GPU, will be on the video card itself. In some cases, it'll actually be integrated in with the CPU. Okay, some CPU manufacturers, and there's only two, I know we talked about Intel and AMD, but certain models, I'll say, of those CPUs have an integrated GPU to help out with video, especially if the video is going to be integrated onto the motherboard. All right, so that's what that is. It's an actual processor. From there, there's also separate video memory. All right, so it's like we're talking about RAM, but it's RAM specifically for video processing. Again, video is so resource intensive. There's so much data that is involved and so much calculations that's involved. It has its own processor and its own memory. We have the bus connector at the bottom, right? These are the little circuits that go into the slot. And then on the outside of the card, and when I say outside, it's the part of the card that would end up being outside the back of the box that the computer's in. You have the actual display connectors. Now, speaking of the display connectors, I have illustrated here three of the most common connectors that you will see in today's computers. And the one on the left is a VGA connector. It is typically blue. It actually looks a lot like the 9-pin serial connector, something I know we haven't really talked about, but it resembles that in shape and size. But there's actually 15 pins, 3 rows of 5 that you can see there. In the middle there, we have an HDMI port, right? And that's for our high def, right? We see HDMI ports on all of our high def TVs. Okay, so that's an HDMI port there. And then we have our DVI, which is also digital, and it's also used for a lot of the high resolution stuff. Okay, and that's that white connector that we have there. These are the three most common video card display connectors that we would use to connect a monitor into the card so that we can actually get something to display on it.